The day began like any other in Mumbai. The sun glinted off the Arabian Sea. People crowded the bustling streets, hawkers sold their wares, and children laughed on their way to school. Then the world exploded. A series of coordinated terrorist attacks ripped through the heart of the city. Explosions rocked luxury hotels and a bustling train station. Gunmen, ruthless and heavily armed, opened fire on civilians, leaving a trail of carnage in their wake. Panic engulfed the city as the death toll mounted. The attacks dominated global headlines, drawing condemnation from world leaders. India reeled, the stench of death mixing with the bitter tang of fear and anger. Evidence pointed towards Pakistan-based militant groups igniting fury across India. The nation demanded justice, its cries for retribution echoing through the halls of power. India's response was swift and decisive. Prime Minister Modi addressed the nation, his voice trembling with controlled rage. He vowed to avenge the innocent lives lost, declaring that those responsible would pay a heavy price. Within hours, Indian fighter jets roared into action, piercing the night sky. Their targets suspected terrorist training camps across the line of control in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. The strikes, dubbed surgical strikes by the Indian government, sent shockwaves through Pakistan. Pakistan denied any involvement in the Mumbai attacks, condemning the Indian action as an act of aggression. The strikes marked a dangerous escalation, pushing the two nuclear-armed neighbors closer to the brink of war. The world watched with bated breath, hoping that cooler heads would prevail. But peace was a distant dream. The surgical strikes proved to be a catalyst, igniting a powder keg of animosity and distrust. Pakistan retaliated with airstrikes of its own, targeting Indian military installations along the line of control. Artillery duels erupted across the border, turning the disputed region into a cauldron of fire. Tensions soared as both sides engaged in a dangerous game of tit-for-tat. India, fueled by public outrage, launched a full-scale military offensive, its troops pouring across the border into Pakistan. Pakistan, though outmatched in conventional warfare, vowed to defend its territory with every ounce of its strength. The conflict escalated rapidly, engulfing the entire region in a maelstrom of violence. The flat plains of Punjab and the rugged mountains of Kashmir transformed into battlegrounds. Indian tanks rumbled across the landscape, their guns blazing. Pakistani soldiers, entrenched in fortified bunkers, fought back with fierce determination. The air crackled with the sound of gunfire and the earth trembled under the impact of artillery shells. Villages along the border were reduced to rubble, their inhabitants caught in the crossfire. Pakistan, unable to match India's military might, resorted to guerrilla tactics. Small mobile units armed with anti-tank missiles and rocket launchers ambushed Indian convoys, inflicting heavy casualties. The fighting was brutal and unforgiving, a testament to the decades of animosity that simmered between the two nations. Section 5, the skies ablaze, aerial dogfights and strategic bombing. High above the carnage on the ground, a different kind of battle raged. Indian and Pakistani fighter jets engaged in deadly dogfights, their contrails painting streaks of white against the azure sky. Missiles screamed through the air, leaving trails of smoke in their wake. The roar of jet engines and the thunderous boom of exploding bombs became the soundtrack to a desperate struggle for air superiority. Beyond the dogfights, strategic bombing raids became a grim reality. Indian bombers targeted key Pakistani infrastructure airbases, ammunition depots and communication centers, crippling Pakistan's ability to wage war effectively. Pakistan responded in kind, its missiles targeting Indian cities, spreading terror and chaos among the civilian population. The skies over South Asia became a deadly ballet of fire and steel, a chilling reminder of the devastating power of modern warfare. Section 6. Cyber warfare, invisible strikes, devastating impact. The conflict was not confined to the physical battlefield. In the digital realm, a silent but equally devastating war unfolded. Skilled hackers, operating from shadowy command centers, unleashed a barrage of cyber attacks. Critical infrastructure systems in both countries became prime targets. Power grids flickered and died, plunging cities into darkness. Banking systems crashed, wiping out savings and crippling financial transactions. Communication networks went down, isolating individuals and spreading fear and confusion. The cyber attacks were a stark reminder that in the 21st century, wars are fought not just with tanks and planes, but also with bytes and algorithms. The invisible hand of cyber warfare wreaked havoc, amplifying the chaos and suffering. Section 7. On the brink, the looming shadow of nuclear war. As the conflict raged, a terrifying question hung over the world. Could this escalate into a nuclear war? Both India and Pakistan possessed nuclear arsenals, and the unthinkable suddenly seemed within the realm of possibility. The international community watched with growing alarm, desperate to avert a catastrophe. The United States, caught between its strategic partnership with India and its long-standing relationship with Pakistan, found itself in a diplomatic quagmire. China, Pakistan's all-weather ally, threw its weight behind Islamabad, further complicating the situation. The United Nations called for an immediate ceasefire, but its pleas fell on deaf ears. The world held its breath, praying that the unthinkable would not come to pass. Section 8. A world in fear. The humanitarian crisis unfolds. While the world fretted over the nuclear threat, a humanitarian crisis of immense proportions unfolded on the ground. Millions of people were displaced, fleeing their homes in terror. Refugee camps, hastily erected and ill-equipped, overflowed with desperate families. Food, water, and medical supplies ran dangerously low. Children, caught in the crossfire of a conflict they did not understand, bore the brunt of the suffering. The international community, struggling to cope with the scale of the disaster, poured aid into the region. But the needs were overwhelming, a stark reminder of the human cost of war. The conflict, born of political ambition and historical grievances, had unleashed a tide of human misery. Section 9. A fragile peace. Ceasefire and the long road ahead. After weeks of relentless fighting and devastating losses on both sides, a ceasefire was finally brokered. The guns fell silent, but the scars of war ran deep. The ceasefire was fragile, a temporary respite in a conflict that had festered for decades. The underlying issues that had ignited the war, the disputed territory of Kashmir, the issue of cross-border terrorism, and the deep-rooted mistrust between the two nations, remained unresolved. The road ahead was fraught with challenges. Rebuilding shattered lives and infrastructure would require a Herculean effort. The international community, having witnessed the devastating consequences of the conflict, pledged its support. But the wounds of war ran deep and the threat of renewed conflict loomed large. The ceasefire marked not the end of the conflict, but the beginning of a long and arduous journey towards a lasting peace.